Alright, so I guess it's finally time to get back to the working on the normal stuff around here. So this is going to be probably a part one video because I doubt I can do all of this in one video. Uh, It'll probably be part one. I'm going to try to keep the series under 5 parts like I did with the PB and some of the other engines that I've restored. But this is a 2 horsepower sattley. The flywheels are on the floor there. I tried to pick it up and put it up here with the flywheels on it, and my back said don't do that, so I took the flywheels off and set it up here. So this one kind of needs a lot of work. This came from the Days Gone By Museum. I finally found a governor for it and the latch out and the push rod. These are surprisingly hard to find parts for. It took me over a year to find that governor, and it is a good one. Very little backlash on the gear. It does need this shaft because the gear can just slide right off. So I need to remake that shaft. There's going to be a lot of remaking of parts. I need to remake this pin. So we'll get to do some work with the lathe over there. I'm going to remake both of these pins because they're pretty loose. The center pin is kind of loose, but I don't know. I have to look at that and see what I can do. I'm going to kind of go over what's going to have to be done to it. Going to need new bearings. It had homemade bearings in it that were made out of mostly lead, and that's not going to work. They're going to wear out very quickly. It's of course going to get paint. I've already tried cleaning it, and it cleans very well, surprisingly. So I'm just going to take it down to bare metal, primer, and repaint it. I still need to find some of the magneto stuff and the magneto. This is a magneto bracket and spark plug. I do have the crank guard, which is a very hard item to find for these. This is a cylinder head. I have new valves for the cylinder head, but I'm going to have to weld the head because it's cracked right there and right there. I also have another mixer for it, and I need to redo the bushing on the rocker arm. But we're going to have to make that shaft, these pins, this pin. Going to be a lot of machining, and I want this engine to be very nice by the time I'm done with it. I've already painted the main caps. That's not primer. That's actually what color this engine's supposed to be. From what I've heard, they were supposed to be battleship gray, and the closest thing I can find to that is smoke gray, which is supposed to be the same thing if you Google it. I just wanted to see how this was going to do with the Rust-Oleum primer that I got. Here's some of the other parts for it. This is just those homemade bearings. They would probably be all right, but they're made out of mostly lead and they're pretty scored up. A couple of them cracked when I took them out. I don't remember which one it was, but here's the oiler tube. I'm going to have to remake that. Wrist pin, I want to make a stainless steel one of those. The connecting rod is bent too, so I got to straighten that out. Reshim everything, new bearings. This is the pivot shaft for the rocker arm, I think. Remake that. And this is the pivot pin for the magneto trip, so need to remake, or at least clean that up, maybe make a new one. cylinder's in good shape. This engine had the piston in it when I got it, but it didn't have any rings on it, so it just slid out. So the cylinder is not cracked. Neither is the gas tank. The gas tank's going to have to be cleaned. I think the mice got in there and made a nest. So I'm going to get to disassembling the governor assembly first. And that way I really want to get all of this primed and painted before it gets cold. Before it gets cold weather, so I can work on it in the winter. I just can't paint it in the winter when it's 35 degrees outside. So I'm going to start taking this governor apart. Alright, so I guess the first thing I can do is just pretty much slide this gear off. Gear's in very good condition. It hasn't been busted. The cam's in pretty good shape, so I'm going to sit this box. Slide that over there. And then that shaft will come out when I take that loose. If I can pull this pin out, this is a pin I'm going to have to remake. Pretty worn up in here. This is not in bad shape. Let me find a 1/2 inch. I do have a couple of good videos that'll be coming up soon, I hope. I bought another project like I need another project. I'm not going to say what it is, but I should have a will it run video on it in a month or so. Maybe just a couple weeks, but probably a month or so. Here's this bracket. It holds a push rod. There's a little thumb wheel on it that unscrews. I'm going ahead and unscrew that because all of this has got to be cleaned and painted. Alright, so these weights have got to come off. Probably have to find a pair of pliers to get that out. I'll get those cotter pins out off camera, and then we'll get back to this. Alright, so I finally got them blasted little cotter pins out of there. Alright, that sounds pretty solid. Okay, it moved. I want to see how worn these pins are when I get them out of there. Well, they're not too bad. I can look at them later, but I may end up just going back with those. So this weight will come off. That just needs to be cleaned up and painted. This one here is a little bit tighter. I don't want to hammer on this too much. Alright, the weight should come off. That one looks alright. Just a bunch of dried grease holding that thing on there. There it goes. Also, something else I forgot to mention, you can't really see it, but down here in this hole, there's a hole punched in the bottom that appears to be from where this thing throwed a rod at one point. I've never seen a hit and miss engine throw a rod before. This pin here looks to be in pretty good shape too. Let's get this back. Take this off. And the flathead screw. And there it went. There's this gear and washer with a little brass shim. This gear is in good shape. There's really no slop on this shaft. Somebody kept it oiled pretty good. Alright, so we're pretty much down to the bracket at this point. I'm going to get this loose. I'm going to remove that pin. Alright, so now we're down to the bracket. I think it's either a 1/2 inch or a 9/16. It's a 9/16. So if you go back to my Days Gone By museum auction video, you'll see this engine on the trailer, and then I talk about it. But it's I'm not sure on the year because the tag's missing. It also could be a Nelson Brothers, but I'm just going to call it a Sattley, and I'm probably going to put a Sattley tag back on it because that's the only one that reproduces. I'm painting it in colors like a Sattley, so this governor bracket is in pretty good shape, except for somebody's brazed a piece of metal to the bottom of it. I don't know if it got broke or what. I think it got broke. This right here will just get cleaned up and painted. So now I guess I can remove the cylinder itself. That appears to be a set screw. It is a set screw. Somebody's got holding that on there. It won't fit either one of those. This one down here. We'll get the one up here first. I'm going to have to do a little work on honing the cylinder, so okay, it's already falling off, so I'm going to go on ahead and try to take this bottom one out. That hit the release on the tripod. I don't know where the wrench went. There it is. Move the camera over here so you can get a better view. I apologize for not having too many videos lately. I've been pretty busy with stuff other than hit and miss engines and such. Been a pretty busy year, actually. And then I took a trip here Labor Day weekend, and I took a trip to Daytona Beach, Florida. I've never been to Florida before, so until then, so that was pretty interesting. I've got a few video clips and some pictures from that I could put up in a video if anybody wants to see that. Put it down in the comments if you want to see some of those clips and stuff. If I don't, just go on ahead and post them. But if I haven't, y'all want to see them, I'll post a few video clips that I got. Really wasn't that much. It was mostly pictures. But it's pretty neat down there. Alright, so at the end of this bolt, this cylinder is going to fall off. There we go. So I need to pressure wash that because it's full of crud. I want to see if I can get these two plugs out of the bottom of it. So now I can remove, if I have the right sized wrench, maybe I've got a socket, I can remove the engine block itself. And if I decide to post that video of going to Daytona that I got, I will talk a little bit about how that ties to the other project that I bought, because it's a pretty interesting story. I really ought to tell that story in another video, and going ahead and post that with it. These ones over here are pretty tight. And the reason that I just didn't post that video was because it really didn't relate to hit and miss engines or tractors or cars or anything. Well, in some ways it does, but really, if it wasn't for the fact that this engine has a big hole knocked in the bottom of the engine block, it'd be in pretty good shape. I don't know if somebody dropped something down in there while it was running and punched a hole in it, or if it chucked a connecting rod or what. I believe that this was somebody's project engine and it never got finished. And that's why it was left in such a poor condition, because it was painted and somebody actually took the time to paint it. But everything was just loosely assembled. There's a mouse nest. See how many black widows are under here. There's the hole that was punched in the crankcase. Let's see some Brower close carcasses, but there's a live one. A little small one. See, that's a mouse nest there. There's some square-headed bolts. I think they're square-headed bolts. Yep. And these grooves, and that's how that's held to the fuel tank. That's interesting. Never seen that before. Alright, so I'm going to try to just dump this on the floor. So that's going to have a backhoe rust run through it before I can ever put the engine back on it. A lot of grease under here. I was hoping to find some original paint. Take care of that brown recluse. I have run across Black Widows in this old equipment before a couple of different times. Don't see any more of them. More live ones anyway. Bunch of dead ones. Alright, well that's going to be easy to clean. That's not going to be a big deal at all. The gas tank is probably going to be more of a challenge than anything. There's some more crap laying down there in that sump. Piece of spring was laying in there. What else we got? More of that spring, and that's about it. This gas tank is absolutely full of crap. I had to get some pressure wash it this weekend. But yeah, it's gonna about do it for the disassembly process. And go get the grinder and try to do some cleaning on this engine block maybe. So yeah, I might film some more of the disassembly and stuff, or I'll film some more of the painting and show more of my painting process because it's been a while since I've done that. I'm not going to show much of the cleaning because that's just kind of boring. Okay, so I was out here cleaning this engine. I've got I'm using paint stripper on this block, try to get it all that nasty green paint off of it. So I was taking the freeze plugs, because this engine has freeze plugs, out of the bottom of the hopper, and I found this. That appears to be a very old wrench, and it's long enough it comes back here, and there's something else that almost looks like a pair of pliers in here. So I'm going to try to get them out so I can see what they are. I know that's a wrench, but I don't know what the other thing is. Alright, so I know it's a terrible view, but I'm going to see if I can get this wrench out of here. I think I got it loose. See if I can get it to drop to the top of the cylinder. Might be able to slide it through this little crevice over here where the yeah. See if I can get it. There it goes. And it could have been in there for 100 years. There's still something else in there. It's a very old wrench. I might clean it a little bit and see if it's got something stamped in it or not. So this other stuff looks like a pair of pliers. It's up here. I'll turn the cylinder around. You can see it moving back here. Kind of try to work it loose. If it got down in there, it's bound to be able to get back to the top. It's been lodged in here longer than the wrench, I think, maybe. Whatever it is. Another big chunk of that. Chunks of sediment. I can't really tell if the, there we go. I don't think I'm going to get it to go to the other side. I don't think I can get it through the freeze plug hole either. Get some of the sediment to fall to the bottom. I don't know if you can tell, but these restoration videos are probably going to be pretty long ones. If I can get this to work loose. Definitely a pair of pliers, I think. Very large pair of pliers, actually. I think it dropped to the bottom. Yep. There we go. Pair of pliers. Those have been in there long enough for the sediment to build up in between them. Very old pair of pliers. They are not seized up either. I think I'm going to make a little board to go next to this engine and bolt these to it. That's pretty neat. Been in there that long. I was just cleaning this water jacket out so I could oh crap. It's all the stuff that was in it. That's all that was in the hopper there. I did that. There's a bolt. And that is just chunks of, oh, that's a bolt that's been in there long enough for the sediment to build up around it. It's got pretty good threads on it. Probably clean that up and reuse it. What we got in here? I don't think there's anything in that one. This floor is dirt. There's somebody's beer can pull tab. They throw it in there. More sediment. Alright then. Wrench and a pair of pliers in the bottom of that hopper. Probably ain't no telling how long could have been in there. Alright, so I finally got this engine block kind of cleaned up. As you can see, it's still got some of this ugly green paint on it. This paint will not come off. I have coated it with paint stripper and scrubbed at it with a wire brush. I've hit it with this and it will not come off. I got most all of it off of the sides. They're good and bare cast iron, but down in here that paint's just too glued on. They use some kind of lead paint with a what seems like a no primer at all. So I'm going to show a little bit, give a few tips. I did some painting tips back in one of my really early videos of doing the Briggs & Stratton PB, but I didn't show much about taping it up. And first of all, you want a good masking tape, and this is not a good masking tape. I don't like this stuff, but it's all that I have right now. I'm out of the good blue stuff. And this will work. This cheap stuff will work. I already did this side. As you can see, I've got good lines here because this is where the main bearing is going to sit, and this is where my governor assembly is going to sit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear off a strip of tape, and I'm just going to I'm going to lay this one in the corner, use my fingernail to kind of get it in that corner, rip the extra off, and then I'll put another piece here and trim it down. And so then I'm just going to keep running pieces across like this and try to get, if you got a machine line like that, try to lay your tape line on that. And so now I'm going to put this piece here, lay that in there like that. So lay this in here. I'm not going to film all of this because SD card space and time of the video. So, and then where did my razor blade go? There it goes. Now this is also not a good razor blade either. This is one of the cheap ones that came out of the knives that they give us at work, that have the blunt safety ends that are darn near useless. And I'm going to try to use it to trim this tape off. I'm going to try to use the cast iron. That's why I try to get most of the majority of it off first, so I can use the cast iron. This is a very time-consuming process, but it's just as important as the cleaning if you want a good looking engine. I guess if you're just trying to throw some paint on one to keep it from rusting, you ain't got to worry about it. But this is a full restoration, and it's going to be, this engine's going to be nice. And an engine that I invest as much money in as I'm going to this one is going to be a nice engine. Alright, so I'm not going to film the rest of this. Y'all get the idea. This is going to take a little more time, so I'll finish this up and I'll get to doing the final wipe down, and then we'll take it outside and throw a coat of paint on it. Alright, so everything's taped up. I even got, here's a very important part. It's this little mating surface right here where the cylinder bolt's on. That's very important. Don't forget to get that. So this is probably the most important part of getting good paint on something. This is actually real remove and prep, like wax and grease remover for painting stuff. You usually use this when you're painting like a car, but I usually just use acetone, but I have that, so I'm going to use that. I mean, it's pretty much what this is, or at least pretty much what it smells like, just straight acetone. We're just going to wipe everything down every little nook and cranny. Make sure that there's no oil or grease, and I'm going to try to stop myself from touching it with my hands until I tote it outside. Something else I wanted to note on this block right in here, there's a mark where the connecting rod hit it and then knocked that hole in the bottom of the crankcase. Chicken just walked in the door. Wish they would quit that. Alright, so I'm going to finish getting this wiped down and then we'll take it on outside and get some primer on it. Alright, so I got the block outside. It's good and clean, good and dry. And here's the primer I'm using. Rust-Oleum for once. Not a big fan of Rust-Oleum. We're going to see how this stuff works. It's supposed to be really good for this. For cast iron. Alright, so I'm going to hit this crank guard first. Alright, so that's pretty good for a first coat. I'm going to give that a couple hours to dry, as long as it don't start raining. And I'll put a second coat of primer on, because I think this needs a second coat of primer. And then probably do the gray paint tomorrow, give it at least overnight to cure. Might give it the rest of the week and do it next weekend, but not too bad. None of that paint really showed through that got left, so that ain't too bad. Alright, so surprisingly enough, I was actually able to get the gib key out of this flywheel. Let's see if it'll come off. A little bit stiff. If there's a burr on there or what. There we go. There. I've been kind of hoping I could get the flywheels off. I really hope I can get the other one off and make cleaning that crank 1,000 times easier. Why it surprised me when I was able to get the give key out of it. That other give key is going to be a pain. It's flush with the side. But if I can get it out, looks like I might be able to get the flywheel off. Well, I didn't get it on video, but I got the crank. Let's see if I can get that gear off of it. Got another key in it. I'm glad that that went ahead and come off, because that'll make cleaning them flywheels a lot easier, and this crankshaft too. So always a good thing when stuff starts coming apart easy. Alright, so now I can get the first coat of gray paint on the engine block and the crank guard. This actually looks more like primer than the primer does. But this is the original color of the engine, so I think the original color may have been a little darker than this, a bit darker gray. Alright, so now we'll give that a pretty good while to dry. Alright, so I think that's going to about do it for part one of this series. Made pretty good progress in this video already, because we already got the engine block painted and some other stuff, so that's pretty nice. I'll set the main caps on there, just so we can see what they look like. Still got everything taped up, but there's the main caps on there. This turned out really nice. Like, I can see my reflection in it. So, really happy with how the paint turned out. I'm still got to get these flywheels cleaned up, get them painted. This is all the small stuff that I've gotten cleaned and ready for paint. I still got to wipe them down and get primer and stuff on them. This is the latch out arm bracket, governor weights, and then I've got a couple of the gears. I'm not putting paint on the gear, on this gear. I need to find a valve because this one is pitted beyond use. This one here is in good shape. It's got a part number on it, and it's the same as the part number on this one, so I should be able to get another one of these. I'm also looking into getting another connecting rod because this one is bent and twisted. It could be straightened, but when I can find them relatively easily. It's pretty neat. We found the pliers and the wrench and the hopper. I'll probably get more into the cylinder on part 2. I got to get it honed, cleaned up, and painted. I got to get it cleaned up first, all the paint off of it, pressure washed out, and then hone it. Make sure the gasket surfaces are clean, and then we can get it painted. Here's the mixer. That was one of the hardest parts to find because that was missing. So was this governor latch out bracket and such. I'm not using any of these bearings because they were homemade, and that's not the reason that I'm not using them. They're just all scored up and scratched. If they were in better shape, I would use them, whether they were homemade or not. But I can get new ones for this engine. I've got a lot of nitpickety stuff to get, like high crown bolts. I'm gonna replace these gib keys. Other stuff like that. A lot of bolts that I'm gonna replace. A lot that I need to clean up that I'm going to reuse. Gotta get the head welded. Hopefully I do that in the next video. But for right now, I think that's going to be it for part 1. I thank everybody for watching. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video.